how we interact with each other, and how do we understand the transparency. But I don't know that we got real deep and into it. We needed a little bit, a few more things to be aired out per se. So I'm going to start off tonight's impromptu question is going to be when it comes down to womanhood and mental health. We go with the basics. Who, when is identity? Let us go with the trauma that most of us have experienced in our life. How do we come to the terms where we understand that that backlash is still there, even when we're grown? Where, how do we identify the trauma, the PTSD that is still involved, that causes issue? So we're gonna start off with Miss Jamila this time. But well, tell me, when we're trying to identify, when we're trying to understand it, what we doing?
Identifying PTSD. I don't know that.
It doesn't have to be just PTSD, but anything. Just how do we identify? Do we even talk to each other long enough to say that we see something's wrong?
Uh, we talk, we talk, but you know, like the conversation last night, it's so taboo within our community in terms of dealing with mental health. As soon as it's brought up, we tend to veer off and away from that. Um, Commonly, there are, granted, you might have a circle of people who absolutely you can have that conversation with, but you also have to be receptive of that conversation. So, I mean, when you're dealing with PTSD, yeah, your circle can recognize it, but you have to be open enough to accept, wait, hey, wait a minute, I have some issues that I need to do some work in, and I need to see someone professionally so I can do the work.
Okay, Danny, come on.
Identifying the PTSD and trauma. I think a big part is the self-realization. And then, yes, your circle can say, hey, we noticed this, we noticed that. But it may not even be a post-traumatic stress situation. So yeah, of course, some people may be like, okay, well, I'm not. Some things manifest themselves and it's just part of your personality and not a trauma response or a PTSD response. So I think it's when we're having those conversations, we really have to assess the circle and where it's coming from. Especially if people don't know what you're dealing with and what you're addressing with your therapist. Maybe that's not the priority thing at this time. Maybe it's trying to just survive and stay alive. So to address having a wall up may not be the important thing when you're wanting to die. So it's really picking and realizing what is your inner circle may not know that you have a desire not to live anymore. So it's really the self-realization. Your circle can share some things with you, but then that also becomes being mindful of a mob mentality as opposed to addressing something with love. So all of that, I think, factors in to that whole dynamic.
Mel?
I think the energy in our civilization is awakening. We're in an unprecedented level of communication and requirement for communication in every aspect of our lives, right? And I would say that COVID has sort of propelled that movement of paying attention and communication, observation and communication, observation and communication, and then action. So sometimes we might not, be in a group like this. There might be some of us who aren't in a group like this who are aware or, woke, aware. And so don't even recognize that we're in a situation that is creating trauma, or that we are repeating a situation that is creating trauma. And a lot of time, that's because, we haven't stopped to go, oh, shoot, didn't I just have this experience with a different woman, a different man, a different child a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Doesn't this person make me feel exactly like my mama used to make me feel? Personally, I'm one of those people that it takes a lot to make me angry, and angry to the point where I'm just not, my mom and I were just talking about this. I go from 0 to 100. There's no in between. And when I get to 100, I've been in a few situations where I don't remember what has happened. I have literally snapped. But when I reflect on it after the fact, I realize that the reason that I got to that place was because the person made me feel like I was back in my mom's, under my mom's parentage as a child. And it brings back the feeling of helplessness, of hopelessness, of, I can never do anything wrong. Anything right. Of I need to be seen and not heard. Or of simply, one of my biggest triggers is someone putting their hands on me, and unprovoked. And it just reminds me of my mom just, for whatever she felt like, that pop that comes out of nowhere, or saying you don't trust me. Because for me, growing up, there was some issues with the men surrounding me. They weren't even necessarily all in my life, but surrounding me, and the things that they would tell my mother that indicated that I was a liar, but I wasn't lying. They were the ones lying. And these were grown men and I was a child. And my mom and I, the only way we know is because we've had conversations. So in order to identify the trauma, right, you have to be willing to put the shame and fear aside. And we've said this before, and have the conversations and have some self-awareness and self-reflection. Right. And so if you're a person who isn't part of a woke group, I happen to have done a lot of self-work on myself over the years as part of a spirituality group. And I have an amazing spiritual advisor. And if you're not part of a group like that, what you have to at some point realize that you are repeating the same patterns, the same people, the same situations over and over and over again. And that's how you identify the trauma, or at least the symptom of the original pain, right? And then once you've identified that the symptom keeps showing up, I keep getting this rash over and over and over again in the same spot, then you go, oh crap, I can't wear these kind of earrings, right? So you can pinpoint where that symptom is coming from. And so the short answer is it comes with paying attention to what is going on in your life, joining a community of woke people, right? And being willing to have the conversations that are going to bring up shame and fear, and having them anyway.
Okay, and I think my question, my answer to the question per se is a little bit of everything everyone has said, but I think Mel brought it home, the communication and getting past the shame. when someone tells you they've been through something, don't look at them sideways. Don't belittle them because they've managed to journey through, and don't demonize them when they telling you that I've made it through and that this was a painful place and I tell you I'm triggered. We have to do the work. It's not easy. So, with everything that we have been through, going through the whole journey, because we're all in that generation where children were seen but not heard. Now is that is changing in some ways, where they're now being heard more often because now these younger generations are blasting it out, but they're still not doing it in a healthy way. They're not being heard because someone has sat down and talked to them. They're being heard because they were like, okay, y'all ain't gonna listen. Y'all gonna keep hurting me. So now I'm gonna hurt you back. Now I'm gonna fight you back. Now, how do we work with this? Because we see so many of our girls dressing like us nothing. They don't value themselves because in their mind, everything they've been through has taken all of the self-care and self-awareness and the emotional boundaries off. So they say what they want to say and say, I'm grown, I can do this and I can do that. How do we begin to work in our community, not only to help our age range, but to help the younger ones not have to go through some of the pain we went through with the whole, I'll say what I want to say, how do we address their pain? I'm starting with Danielle.
That's a rough one. Honestly, when you have, and you're saying younger generations, I guess for me, it depends on where that lies. For me, being in education, there's a line that I have to walk in terms of these type of conversations with my students. But then outside of that realm, if you're in an environment where everything is, this is how I am, just accept it. If that's how mom is and auntie is, then that other young lady is going to start having the thing of, this is just how I am. I don't care if my job likes it or not. This goes back to what I said last night. If you're dressed in pajamas at home and you're dressed in pajamas in the store, you're going to act like you do at home because you're in the same, you have the same gear on. So if this is how you are at home and the whole environment is, this is me, take me as I am, toxic or not, you put that same gear on going to work and to school and your social circles. So it really depends on what the biggest influences are in that young person's life. Us as grown women, it's a little bit different, but when we're looking at young ladies who are in their late teens, early 20s, who are most likely living at home with mom or whoever still, what is their biggest influence? And that's it needs to go hand in hand. Like even with where I work currently, we work with the parents and we work with the kids. Because healing and fixing the kids, yeah, but then when they go home, they have to take off what they've learned at school and now they have to readjust back to what's happening at home. Whereas if we're teaching the parents the same thing as we're teaching the students, there's a likelihood that maybe the cycles can start breaking. I mentioned last night about the grounding yourself and things of that nature. If we're teaching the parents and the children, and I say children, that's even to teen ages, teen and young 20s. If we're teaching them what being at peace looks like, if we can teach them what addressing your traumas look like, if we can teach them, as Jamila said, the techniques, massaging your hand, giving yourself some reflexology, it's a tag team thing. Like we can't just say, let me throw a dart at this part of the generation and just hopefully we can figure it out. We have to get above and beneath the person we're targeting so it can be all sandwiched in together.
Jamila? Oh no. Okay. Go ahead. Because both of you all look like y'all want to say something. Go ahead, Mel. Go ahead.
So I have a mantra I've lived with my whole life, and I've heard it said shortened, and I added a third line to it. And so, in full disclosure, I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. I am what's called an introverted or an extroverted introvert, and I have bouts of clinical depression. As in conjunction with self-image issues, these ladies know that I'm constantly saying, this is not the skin color I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be a nice chocolate brown, and I don't know what happened, but this doesn't look right in the gene pool that is my family. And I've been a klutz my whole life. Like my body shape, I honestly, truly believe that at the last minute, my soul was like, you know what? I got another lesson to learn. And this is not what it was supposed to be like. So I have, body image issues, and trauma related to my childhood, as well. And so all of that when I was younger was tempered by my mother will whoop the holy loving crap out of me if I go out this door and act like give in to the impulses. I also have ADHD. Give in to the impulses that my body is like, dude, I can't sit still any longer. You've got to figure this out. And the school was able to give me some coping mechanisms. But for the most part, it was just fear of my mom. Now, as I've gotten older, and I'm still afraid, but less afraid of my mom, I have developed the philosophy, say what you mean what you say. A lot of people have heard that, right? The third part to that is, but don't be mean when you say it. So, often I ask myself, does this need to be said? If it needs to be said, does it need to be said right now? If it needs to be said right now, how do I say it to ensure that the message will come across the way I mean for it to? And then, so to answer your question about how do we deal with the younger generation who does not have necessarily, majority of them, as healthy fear of their parents as we had, we have to, as my sister says, feel your feels. So she's raising two biracial boys, and, we've raised our men to believe that having emotions is not okay. And if you are a strong Black woman, showing your emotions is not okay. Having those, for me as a child growing up, if I showed any emotion less than cheerful, I was, going to be punished. So, what we need to be teaching this generation coming after us. And this is definitely for people in their 20s, 30s, and younger. These millennials need to know that we need to teach them, I wrote it down so I would get it right. We need to teach them how to feel the feels, right? So that's behavioral psychology, how to feel the feels while being responsible and aware of how they express it. So I often recommend that when people go to therapy, they see a behavioral therapist who may also dabble in Jungian therapy. The reason being, Jungian therapy is going to look at your childhood and what happened to create the adult that you are, right? Good, bad, otherwise. Behavioral therapy is going to teach you how to take those situations and modify how you react to them as an adult. So that's what we're missing with these kids, is we're telling them it's okay to be yourself and express yourself and have the flair, but we're not teaching them how to address their behavior in an appropriate, useful manner. And I yield my time.
Come on, Jamila. You're on mute, honey. Jamila, you're on mute.
It looks like she froze.
Okay. Well, we're waiting for her to have a moment.
There she
There we
goes.
go. And it froze again. Okay, so you back with us? Jamila. She may not can hear us. Okay, so while we're waiting on her, so I think my opinion of this particular question, a lot of it you hit on, but and I think Danny said some of it yesterday. We need to normalize having a therapist in the schools, and not oh, I'm having a mental breakdown. They need to normalize having a part of the day where the therapist just walks around showing them little coping mechanisms. Just normalize showing them how my daughter suffers anxiety. And I said this yesterday, she suffers it in a grand fashion. So there are moments when I have to know who she is and know to tell her counselor, my daughter has anxiety. She deals with it because of things that she has dealt with. Now, if she comes to you, please allow her to sit in your office. Please allow her to calm down because I'm trying to teach her mechanisms to cope. But part of that is removing yourself from the situation when you can't handle it. Part of it is being verbal. Baby, they can't understand you when you're in a corner crawled up. So say, I need a minute. Say, I need space. Those three words alone will get you the world of help. Say, I need space. I need time. Or even I need a minute. And I've had the therapist come back. I says, if you can't come talk to mommy and you're in school and you feel it, go to the. And so on all of their records, I tell them I'm signed off on it. Yeah, if she comes in and says she needs to talk, let her have a minute because most times that's all she really needs. That's all she really wants is to be heard for that moment, to say all the things that she hasn't had a chance to say in the other space. And so many parents limit the kids afraid of what the kids are going to say. Listen, they said, they said. Unless you're hurting this kid, you shouldn't be afraid of what they're going to say. Yeah, it may hurt your feelings because the way they accept your parenting style may hurt. Let's be real, it ain't always easy as a parent. However, if you catch them while they're young, you have a greater chance of getting them through the rest of the life with healthier habits. And I learned that from my own therapy. So I just think we need to just make it a culture where we understand 20 minutes a day with the therapist, just these are what your feelings are. If you feel this way, talk to somebody. You don't have to talk to me, talk to mommy, give them something. Because a kid who's being abused won't tell nobody because they think everybody's going to be mad with them. And the abuser has the power because we've never given them a door to open. We've never given them anything to let them understand that it's okay to talk to me. We ain't said it's all right. We didn't always say children sit down, be quiet, but when they're gonna speak. So, okay, Miller, go ahead.
Well, for me, I've been saying this statement, and I'm definitely going to paraphrase it, but killing oneself helps heal 7 generations back and 7 generations. Um, and I think that in terms of recognizing and helping the younger generations, physician heal thyself first. So let's address what we got going on so that we can address what mama had going on or what grandmama had going on, because we are human and life happens and everyone has been through something. Your level of something may be different than somebody else's level of something, but it's, it is our something. that we have experienced, that we've gone through. So, you were talking about your daughter. I had to learn a lesson from the school counselor for my son. So when I recognize that his anxiety is doing a thing, and this is how I really began to kind of focus on doing the reflexology with myself, because his counselor would grab his arms and just kind of massage his arms, and it would completely calm him down. And so when he does, when he is in that space, I know now, oh, this helps calm him down and recenter him and focus him so that we can actually have a conversation. Because when you're in an anxiety place or you're in a depression space, you have to be able to communicate to people, hey, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. But if it's in a frantic space, it's difficult. It's difficult. I've seen young ladies, literally, when I was in cosmetology school, I had to talk a young lady from behind a shampoo bowl because she had a complete breakdown. It wasn't my job to be her therapist. It was my job to be that interim mother. Baby, we're going to be okay. And I sat there with her so that she could recenter herself. And everybody else, go do what you need to do. Recenter yourself. I think, as we're talking about helping this generation, we have to, like I said, first understand ourselves and watch and listen and see what it is they need. I am a firm believer that even when people are acting out, as it were, that even in that act out, they are crying for help in
Mhm.
some way, shape, some shape or form. They are crying for help. I need help in this area and I'm frustrated and I don't know how to communicate that. And I feel like nobody's listening to me. And, well, to heck with it all, you know. So we have to be way more mindful. And I absolutely agree with Mel in terms of, yes, culturally, generationally, we are a lot more woke than previous generations, but we have to be willing to step in and say, hey, this is a safe space. And no, I'm not a therapist, but if you need me to hold your hand while you go to therapy, I promise you I will. And recognize that there is no judgment in terms of getting the help that you need, be that needing medications, be that holding those conversations. We don't want to take the medicines because we were told that they were crazy pills. That's what we were told, that they were crazy pills. No, you have chemical balances that are off. Let's balance those chemical balances. Let's deal with the emotional and mental issues that's going on. There's just a number of things that we have to be willing to talk about. I get a little upset and a little passionate when it comes to some of my beloved Christian brothers and sisters who are like, well, we're just going to pray about it and everything's going to be fine. God gives us wisdom and understanding, which means that, yes, we can pray about it. But if my limb is falling off, am I just going to pray about it? No, I'm going to go to emergency and I'm going to get it healed. So if my mind isn't right, yes, I can pray about it, but I need to go again to a physician who specializes in that thing to help get my mind right. I yield on that one.
I just want to jump in, if I may, Tamika, before Michelle, before we move on. So I am a scientist by nature. I have a science brain, and to counterbalance that, I do a lot of creative things to allow me to sit in my body. But I have a science brain first and foremost. I am a thinker. I think through my problems before I realize, oh crap, maybe I need to emotionally feel this and then think later. And so for me, this concept, again, I'm telling you this because even for me, my mom is she was a psych major. She was a therapist very briefly. She was a human resources director, which, you know, again, deals with interpersonal issues in your job. So it's not that I'm not familiar with this field, but the very first time I went to therapy as an adult, they make you fill out this form that asks you, like, have you experienced, and then this whole list of things in the last year, the last 6 months, the last month, the last week, and today. I filled it all out and didn't think anything about it. The first thing the therapist said to me is, I got your form. Before I look at this, or before we talk about this, Miss Snow, why are you here? And I just started crying. And I said, I don't know. I'm happy. I shouldn't be, right? It's a wasted word. Another one of those wasted words. I have a good job. I have a great family. I'm well loved. I have a great friendships. I make a good bit of money. I have my own material crap. I have no idea why I cry every day, all day. It doesn't matter what it could be a puppy commercial on TV that is so beautiful and I'm happy, but I am boohoo sobbing, right? So when she went through the chart of things that I had checked off, she was like, you're off the charts on all of these. She was like, 1 or 2 of these, you know, brings people here. All of these cumulatively together are like, you need to be on medication before I can even talk to you. And I had said to her, I don't want to be on medication, right? And this is what I'm getting back to, Jamila, because I had been led all my life to believe that the you know, you get dependent on it, you can't live without it. You know, it's all, the medication doesn't do anything. It's all in your head. You need to change your behavior. My mom's a behavioral psychologist. So, you know, it's about adapting your behavior. But then my whole life I have been taught by the church, you are blessed. And people need to see that Christians, right, are happy and that the Lord is blessing them. And you don't have anything to be unhappy about as long as you have all these blessings that the Lord gave you, you know? And so the medication was a huge like deterrent for me until the doctor explained it to me biologically. And that's what I was like amening to you, Jamila, on, because as soon as she said, look, there's a hormone in your body called serotonin. You are missing the amount of serotonin that you need to regulate your emotional well-being. Your brain is just not creating it, right? And something is happening in your endocrine system where all of the hormones translate into feelings, and you need medication to help kickstart your brain into going, oh, I need to make some more hormones because I'm deficient, just like diabetes. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God. It made sense, because if you're diabetic, your body is either producing too much or too little sugar, and you need the medicine to regulate the hormone production. So for me, you know, as someone like me who first goes to thinking and then to emotional, you know, when I'm trying to explain to people the science behind why you need to go to therapy and why you need to get on medication, you know, it's great to pray and it's great to feel the feels, and all of that is great. But when you start looking at the science of, you know, the human condition, we are, especially as women, fight or flight, right? I'm either going to fight my way out of this situation, or I am going to shut down and get away as fast as I can. We're not taught how to cope. And then you throw on that people like us who have, you know, depression issues, anxiety issues, PTSD. PTSD is a conditioning of your brain to react in a terrible way to certain stimuli. And it doesn't matter if it's the same exact situation, your brain registers that the cortisone levels in your body have increased due to a specific situation that is a reminder of a situation, of a cortisone level that happened in a situation before. And you may not be, you know, you think about our military folks who have PTSD, they may not be in Afghanistan anymore, but their brain doesn't recognize that, right? So it is so important. I say it all the time to people in our community and to men who are like, you know, that's a women thing. No, it's not. It's a biology and a brain thing. I'm telling you, within 4 days of starting on the medication, because I have a kind of insomnia where I can get to sleep, but I don't stay asleep and I don't get restful sleep. And within 4 days of a good night's sleep and a high dose of the medication I needed to kickstart my serotonin, I could actually have a conversation without collapsing into a puddle of tears. And I swear by it now. I swear by medication. You have to take it regularly. You have to take it the way it was prescribed. You have to stay on top of it. You have to contact your doctor if it's not working and get on something new. But you have to give it a chance to work. Most medications take 30 days to get in your system and really start working. And some of them take 3 months before you can really say this is or is. Obviously serious adverse events, you know, you got to be aware of those, but just so you can get to a, not instead of being here where you are drowning, to get to here where I can at least breathe through my nose. That's what that medication does for you. And then the therapy gets you here where you can hold your head above the water, tread water, swim laps, and engage in normal activity. But for those of us that suffer from these conditions, you know, this is one thing that I know Tamika and I talk about a lot, is we are never out of the water.
Exactly.
We are always treading water. We are always, at any moment, something could come along and suck us under, right? And the whole point of therapy and medication is to catch you and throw you a life vest when you start to go under. It doesn't mean you're not going to, you know, be back to here again or here, but maybe you got a snorkel and you can get a little air.
That part. Just a little bit, just
while you're, you know, here. It's so important. And thank you, Jamila, for bringing up the medication, because it is something that we're all talking about vaccines right now. And I have been out here preaching, and I'm telling you, I preach. I have been out here preaching and preaching and preaching that if you do not have a comorbidity, you need to get this vaccine. Research which one will work for you and get this vaccine. All these things that people are saying about it'll give you the COVID, that is not true. I need people to do their research about your body and medication and all of that. And anybody watching this, my name on Facebook is Melody Celeste Snow. If you need any insight into the biology behind medications, vaccines, anything related to how your body works, reach out to me. I will gladly break down all that information. You don't have to go do the research. You can, I'll give you that, but you don't have to. My sorority sister, I'm trying to get her to understand this medication in this chat. The medication is, you have to do it. So anyway, I'm off my preacher box. Thank you for letting me interject, but please reach out to me if you need, you know, some discussion about anything related to vaccines and drugs.
We'll get her there, Mel. We'll get her there.
So we talked about and to the next, lead into this next statement. We talk, the primary ones that women talk about are depression, anxiety, and PTSD. What I don't think people understand is that there's so many more and so many derivatives off of the ones that we do know of. Because depression can be very light, and you can live with it for years and not really get a whole lot of deep impact by it. Or depression can take you down to a new level of pain that you almost can't recover from. See, and like Mel, I have medication because anxiety wasn't something that I live with all the time. However, life situations caused it to come at me in a way that I didn't understand. I work in a phone center, and my anxiety got so bad I could not talk clearly. I stuttered. My thoughts couldn't catch my thoughts, and I was just. And when I told my therapist, and coupled with my already had hypertension and my blood pressure was staying sky high, but my body wasn't triggering me to say, hey, do you realize that you're not supposed to be walking around with this almost 180 over, almost 100 blood pressure that I've been walking around with? And is there any, my doctor looked at me and says, do you have a headache? No. Do you feel like this? No. I've been doing it for so long that my body's like, oh, it must be normal. That could have killed me had I not went to the doctor. And the doctor says no, and I went to a therapist, and she said, you know what, we need to put you on a different medicine. In the process of putting me on a different medicine, I needed to go to my physician and get a physical. 3 people took my blood pressure that day, within that 30 minutes, because they couldn't believe it was that high and I wasn't having any adverse reactions. They said, ma'am, you could die at any point now. I'd already been to the hospital a few years ago, sitting there with leads on my chest because the environment, the stress of my life had put me down. Understand, anxiety comes. For me, it changes my speech and makes it hard for me to say my words. It just makes me a little bit antsy. For my daughter, it could shut her all the way down to the point where she has to get up and leave and go into a quiet space. For another friend, she drops completely off because hers is so bad. For somebody else, it's just they do a little fidgeting and it's a constant tapping of their pen. And so everyone manifests it differently. It is the same thing with anyone. Understand when someone tells you they have anxiety and they need their space, honor that. They're not being mean to you. They're not trying to be rude to you. But when your anxiety got you like this, is just get away from me. Just get away from me. And that's the only way they know how to say it, to get you to understand that. Depression speaks differently. We talked about that last night. And depression will have a person sitting home with a knife in their hand, contemplating cutting their wrist, and you not know that they feel that bad because 20 minutes ago they were sitting out having the best conversation, laughing and playing with you. Okay. So I need people to understand that those words that they say that hurt people who laugh it off, they're not always laughing on the inside. They just won't give you the satisfaction of seeing their pain, but they're not always laughing on the inside. And people have to understand that. And so my next question, when it comes to mental health and mental illness, how well versed are we? We hear depression being thrown around. We hear anxiety being thrown around. As a community, do we really understand what mental health truly is? Not because, back in the day it was, oh, they're a little special, just leave them alone. But not knowing that there's ways to handle that. Have we taken the leaps forward that we hope we have as women to keep us from going under and being on somebody's table having a heart attack? Do we understand mental health as a whole? Go ahead, Mel. I see you shaking your head.
We don't. And so I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible because this is a passion project or conversation for me. We don't, because it looks different for everybody. And I think that's why we don't have a handle on it. Because my mom suffers from depression. I hope she doesn't get upset for me for disclosing, but my mom suffers from depression. And what my dad couldn't understand is my mom is not a crier. She does not show, she has to really, really, really feel that she can trust you with that emotion, right? And for her, depression manifested as staring off into space. She likes to read. She said she would just stare at the e-reader or the book and flip the pages, but have zero idea what she read. you know, when she finally came to us about it, she said she was at the point where she didn't want to do anything except literally sit on the couch and stare off into space. And the only thing that allowed her to move was the going to see her grandchildren. That was it. It was the only, like, that's it. Otherwise, she didn't want to go to work. She didn't want to do anything, you know, and it's not agoraphobia. She was just depressed. She was that depressed that she had zero motivation to do anything but sit on the couch and stare off in space. And that's not, I think, what people think depression should look like. You know, depression often is exhibited how anxiety looked for me, and that's why I didn't know it was anxiety. You know, where you just are crying for, you know, for no reason, quote unquote, and you're, some people have suicidal thoughts and tendencies, and she wasn't suicidal in that she was going to actively take her life, but she didn't want to live, if that makes any sense. So we don't have a handle on it because, number one, we don't talk about it constructively. We don't correct each other when we are talking about it, right? There are still people who say, she's just touched in the head, or she's shy, or she's hyperactive. Well, maybe not. You know, we still in this country will not diagnose children under a certain age with any mental health disorder because they're growing. So their brains aren't fully functioned yet. And therefore, we can't determine that they have what very well could be. I mean, I had, before it was ADHD, right? And I've always had anxiety. It got worse when I hit puberty. But, we are not willing to diagnose or even look into what do these conditions look like in people under the age of 21. And I'll say under 21 because there's a lot of folks who won't even touch an 18-year-old. So we're not having the conversations, we're not taking the conversation seriously, and we're not educating each other on what it could look like, right? So like you just said, Tamika, depression looks different for different people. Generalized anxiety, I just typed in the comments that it's a wide range. ADHD does not necessarily mean that you're shaking your leg all the time. That doesn't happen for me that often. It doesn't mean that I can't sit still. I absolutely can sit still, but I can't just do one thing. So, it looks very different. And as long as we make assumptions, I feel like the big ones, right? Autism, we're starting to understand that you can be on a spectrum, quote unquote, but I literally a spectrum when it relates to autism that may just be cognitive and emotional, or it may range all the way to, a mix of cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and physical. But we're not looking at, and scientists are not, and I was blessed that my first therapist as an adult was doing this. We're not looking at how do these mental and emotional disorders interact with our biological health, and how does our biological health affect our emotional and mental disorder? Because when you start looking at the cellular level, the hormonal level, you can understand how it affects different people different ways. And so until we're willing to do that, until we're willing to destigmatize that, and look, I'm not going to get back on my high horse, but this matters in every aspect of our life. It matters with how we're raising our children, what they're being exposed to, how they're taught how to handle it. It matters with our prison system and our justice system. It matters with our health system. This is an issue that infiltrates every aspect of our life. But for most of us who have insurance through our jobs, only, so much of alternative medicine and mental health or emotional health medicine including nutritionists, is covered by our insurance. You get 5 visits to a therapist a year, and then good luck. You're on your own. And I've seen therapy costs range, I mean, from $800 a session when I was going to therapy that was connected to a hospital, so they get to charge crazy fees, and $250 a session. So what am I going to do if I run out of my 5 sessions? I don't have a flexible spending account. That's it. And my GY, my general practitioner in most cases won't prescribe the mental health medications because they're like, oh, you need to go see a therapist to get that refill. So we may be on an individual level educating our families and educating our people, but this is a situation that's bigger than the individual. This is going to require legislative and social change. Get out there, vote for people who are willing to expand what health looks like and what is covered under your health policies. And support systems, justice systems, prison systems who advocate rehabilitating the mind and rehabilitating the person, as well as serving your time for your crime and helping you get a job.
Come on, Danielle.
Whew, Mel has said a mouthful. So I told you this earlier. What was the question? I told you this shit from yesterday. Was there a question we were on?
What is it? What is more than just the basics of mental health? We always talk about depression, anxiety.
Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is full transparency, is I've been diagnosed with a depression. I am a recovering alcoholic, which falls under there as well, which then that branches off to so many other things. I did not know, I have not been diagnosed with anxiety, and this is kind of comical, I did not even know what having anxiety was like until Michelle threw remote control at me a couple of years ago. And that was even, it was like, oh my goodness, some things are getting ready to happen. And there were good things, but I froze. I couldn't breathe. And she threw remote control at me. And I was like, wait a minute, huh? And it snapped me out of it to start being more mindful of certain things. So there are so many aspects of mental health that we don't even address and that is brushed off. So as Mel said, the ADHD does not look the same in everyone. Even down to, I am someone that I will tell people if I'm doing only one thing, I'm probably not doing it well. I have to do multiple things. Well, guess what? That multitasking actually intertwines also with mental health issues. But then it's a never-ending cycle, because then it breaks off, and then it's like I didn't complete that. So now it's internalized. It's a cycle. I've experienced the mental, the emotional, and some of the physical abuse. So all of these different things that people are like, you're happy, you're smiling, you're fine. I think I saw someone in the comments say depression will have you in bed all day. Yeah, and guess what? It can have you out the house all day to stay busy, so you don't have to be in the house. So you don't have to be in your own thoughts. I find myself doing that. It's like, okay, well, I'm idle. I need to do something. I need to do something with that idle time, because if I stay too idle, then I'm gonna get in my own head, and that's not a safe place. My own, really, sometimes you say, if I get into myself, I'm safe. No, my brain is not my safe place. That's where I need to get out of. And then this is perfect example. Today, I called my neurologist to decrease my medication. Now, mind you, I'm just going to give this a little short story. When my neurologist put me on this medication in 2019, it was to help with my headaches, to stabilize my mood, as well as helping me with sleep. When I was in my car accident last March in the hospital, they more than doubled it. Now I want it to go back down to what it was. So when I contacted my neurologist, well, why do you want to change it? I'm like, because I wasn't on this dosage before. I want to go back to what I was on. But why? And I'm like, if you check my records, tell him to call me tomorrow. Check my records. This is what he prescribed me to begin with. So it's crazy that I'm actually having to debate with the office that prescribed it originally to get back to that lower dosage. Because I think there's a whole other thought on that. I think I need to come down back off of it some. But there's so many other aspects that we as people need to realize are mental health issues. We need to stop the stigma that we're putting on each other. Oh girl, you went through that? Let me tell you what I went through. Well, no, let that person, as Mel said, feel their feels. You know, that's not your moment. That's not your time. Like, they're breaking down. And if we really paid attention and looked at some things, we would see that there's more mental health issues going on with the people we're around in our circle and with ourselves. But it takes that moment to actually stop and be like, okay, what in the world is going on right now? My heart is racing. Why? Why is my heart racing? Because I'm thinking about XYZ. So now I'm starting to escalate and now I can't breathe. I mean, I go through that myself personally every day, just going up the stairs. I cause myself an anxiety attack because I think I'm getting ready to die from not being able to breathe. So it's like, but it's in my head. It's completely in my head. It's like, you held your breath walking up those 2 flights of steps. Of course you feel this way, you know? So I'm causing my own anxiety attacks. So we really have to stop and look at what is happening with ourselves, with our bodies, with our minds, and even the words that we're saying and speaking of ourselves as well. I hope I touched on what you were asking.
Yeah, but and then too, like you said, in our own mind, in the last couple of years, as my circle changed when I relocated, my circle had to understand who I was. Because of my battle with depression, there are moments when I have to say, pause, I need to go away for a minute. It's not what you did. You didn't do anything, but I'm in a mood and you'll be a victim of circumstance. And it took a minute to get people to get that about me, because you love me authentically and I'm grateful for that. But as Mel say, I'm the introvert some days. Some days I'm the extrovert, some days I'm a total introvert. And in order for me to care for me, my therapist has told me my trigger points. You have to stop and you have to disconnect, because I carry everybody else's energy. The more I'm around them, the more I want to, what's wrong? How can I help you do it? And then I take all of it on and I never let it go. We talked last night about personas and how we take on everybody. We wear all these different jackets and all these different hats, and we pile it on to the point where we lose our basic person. When it comes to depression and anxiety, especially depression, part of the thing about depression is it plays on your hurt, your pain, your feelings. It tells you every day that you ain't nothing. And so but it also won't allow you to go tell everybody else, because you don't want to hurt them like you feeling hurt. Then you have people who deal with bipolar, who mood swings. I'm a kid that's bipolar, or who I think is. But people are so scared to get the medicine, a simple mood stabilizer, something to tell, like Mel said, to tell your mind, hey, we don't need to go from 100 to 10 like this. Can we meet at 50 and stay there? Can we meet in the middle and just let's hold. So it's like a war within yourself. So you have all of these different, it's so many more mental health illnesses that range in strength from very minute to overly overwhelming, that we have to acknowledge. And as women, we have to stop being catty with each other and stop getting angry with each other. You see, this woman is over here, she's having a breakdown, but instead of reaching your hand out, you kind of look at her and whisper and keep moving. This woman is sitting over here and she's had a miscarriage. Oh, just pray about it. Come on, just got to keep moving. No, baby, she needs to grieve. And you're thinking, well, she didn't have that baby, so she didn't really lose. It hadn't been born. From the time of conception, a woman feels that child. From the time she says, I'm pregnant, and her body acknowledges it, there is an instant connection. So when that baby is lost, it kills her internally. You may not feel it, but she absolutely does. Don't diminish her pain. Don't diminish the woman who's crying because her son was shot and killed. Regardless of why it happened, he could have been doing absolutely wrong. It doesn't matter. A mother lost her child. Diminishing her pain doesn't do anything. She's not saying that her son was right or wrong. She's saying he's gone, he's dead, and it hurts because I brought him into this world. Stop diminishing your sister's pain. And because it's a statement that we hear all the time, I am not only my sister's keeper, I am my sister. We have to do that with each other. We have to remember there are women that were raped that stood and kept going and dealt with this stuff because not because they were scared, but because they felt no one would believe them because of who all these people who talked about them and says, oh well, she just asked for it because she wearing this and she wearing that. No, the fuck she didn't. No one asked to be raped. And if you're gonna say that, but did you say, hey, honey, you were so cute. But you know what? I bet you I know another outfit that you can wear to emphasize who you are. You don't have to do that. Did we reach out to her? Did we talk? So my next question becomes now, when we see these hurting women, what do we do? When we see that they have a clear bout of depression and we know internally what it feels like, what is the olive branch? How do we as women stick out the hand to another woman that says, you know what, you are my sister. Let me tell you what I've been through. Let me tell you my story. I hope my story can help you. Can you tell me your story? How do we get to that point? Jamila, come on.
Tell the story. Tell the story. It is, and for me, I've had to learn to live authentically. Um, I would rather somebody hear the story from me first than from what somebody else heard. I would rather people know, like I was sharing last night, I've been in a mental institution. I had a severe breakdown. I had to be on the medications to make life make sense to me again. So I understand that there are some steps that you are going to have to take, my sister, in order to get your life back, as Mel said, at least where you're treading water and you're not feeling like you're drowning any longer. And there is that line again. There was some comments that were made, well, sometimes, you're just trying to relate. You have to, if you have to hear and feel, is this person in a space where they are open to being able to hear the place that you've come from, so that you can say, okay, you know what, I recognize and I empathize with what you're going through, because my challenge may not be your challenge in terms of mental health. um, I didn't even realize in the last year or so that I was going through a severe depression. I didn't realize it, but my neurologist did. And so it was one of those things where I had to say, oh, okay, and he put me on medications, and It has helped me tremendously. But people have to be in that space. And women's intuitions don't lie. Sometimes we have to not be self absorbed and sit in the space that that other woman is in and listen to them and hear what they're saying. And then get permission. Is it okay if I share something with you? Because then they are more apt to listen to what you're saying and receive it. Because, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through. No, no, because now you're making it all about you. Is it okay if I share something with you? I can empathize with you because I have similar experiences. This is what I had to do. I would encourage you to do X, Y, Z. I think that begins a conversation. That begins being able to help our sisters and be our sisters' keepers. First, listen to what they're going through, and not make it about you. And then be able to ask, get permission. I think that's so important, to do that, to get permission to relate to them, get permission to empathize with them, because they might not want that. They might not be ready for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Danielle.
I kid you not, stuff that I just wrote down, Jamila just like took out of my mouth. Um, and there was a comment that I saw also. It may not be the time to say, hey, I know what you're going through. I did it. That may not be the time. How do we extend that olive branch? I think a big part of that is making ourselves available. And when I say available, it's not just in passing, at church or wherever. Hey, how you doing? I'm okay. I'm gonna get through. Well, I'm here if you need me. Nah, you said it. You said it in passing, but do you really mean it? And I think part of that becomes, something? Let's grab coffee tomorrow, or what are you doing at XYZ time? I just want to catch up. Let's talk. And you being undisturbed, like creating that safe space. If Mel says, Danny, I really need someone to talk to, and you might be the person for me to talk to because you've experienced this, so you might be able to have whatever. And the whole time I'm with Mel, I'm doing this. I'm not there for her. I'm not creating a safe space because she does not have me. She doesn't have me. And it's just throwing something out there randomly. Really? Uh-huh. No, it's really like, are you actually, if I'm sitting there and I'm crying with you, I'm there for you. I've created that safe, because I'm feeling what you're feeling. I'm truly empathizing with you. But I think it's more than just the words. It was said last night, the, hey, how you doing? I'm fine, thanks. There's a men's program I came across a while back, and it's called Are You Good, Bro? But the whole thing was preparing men for when you say those words, being prepared. And someone said, I think Jamila said it last night, being prepared to answer that and being prepared for the answer you get back. And we as women, it's the same thing. It's, I'm good, I'm fine, thanks. And even when you're not good and you say, I'm not in a good space, and then people are still pressing that. Let's not press each other. Let's make sure they know, hey, I'm here. Tamika needed her reprieve. And at the same time she needed hers, I felt like I was that close to snapping myself. And she was like, thank you. You let me get mine, but now it's your turn. Like, it's your turn. And I'm so looking forward to my turn this weekend. Like, I really am. Because she knows the kids can come to me. I know my son can come to her, and we can get those. So that's our way that we've made ourselves available. It may not be, I need to talk to you about what I'm going through, but this is how we're able to be available to each other, which is, I need my kids out of my face for an hour, for the day, overnight. I want to sleep peacefully, and I know they're in good hands. That's our way that we have of knowing we're there for each other. She may not want to tell me what's going on. I may not want to tell her what's going on, but we love each other and we're there for each other, like health stuff, whatever. But that's so you have to really, like, in knowing who you're dealing with, knowing how to be there. So even if it's someone that you really don't know well, it could be anything. It could be texting them something inspirational. I have journal therapy writing prompt cards. And I've actually done this. I've taken a picture of one, and I sent it to somebody that I knew was feeling like I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew their energy was off. They didn't want to talk to me. Like, the first one I just pulled up says, list some songs that make you feel good, make a playlist. But just snapping a picture and sending it to them, at least I've extended something that they can say, yo, you know something? I started making a list because of that text message you sent me. I had a flashback to 6th grade and my 6th grade dance, and I felt good. You know, so it's those little things that can make a big impact. Is how we can extend those olive branches, and being genuinely available. Not available to be able to regurgitate and spit the information to somebody else, but to be actually wholeheartedly available and not there to solve their problem, but to be, listen, I need to get this out. I need to cry and snot and hyperventilate cry. Don't hand me no gosh darn tissue. Now, this is something I've always known. I've known this forever, and I did it a few weeks ago. But I know you don't hand somebody a tissue when they're crying, because it's a signal for them to stop crying. But I did it a few weeks ago, and I got checked on it, and I was like, I know better. But we have to make ourselves genuinely available. Let people get their information, whatever they want to share, let them get it out. Don't press it. It'll be natural. So that's it for me.
Okay.
This is a hard one for me, because I have difficulty sinking into my body and feeling what's going on in my body, but I can very easily feel what's going on in other people's bodies, and their energy that's, coming off of them and everything. And I am a hugger. And so sometimes I don't have the words, or I have them, but I don't think you need to hear them. And so, my first inclination is to ask, can I hug you? Can I give you a hug? And sometimes it does amazing things to a person's like psyche. They still may not be willing to share, but I give good hugs. I learned from the best. I give like non-sexual, full body, I'm squeezing you like a bear, rubbing your back, I'm giving you everything hugs. And I'm trying to pass, whatever energy I have onto you, because I do believe in energy movement between us as individuals and the collective. But this is very tricky, right? Because if it's a stranger, I am less likely, although I have done it, I am less likely to ask a stranger, you seem like you need a hug. Can I give you a hug? But there's, to Jamila's point, there's something about being authentically you. Excuse me, Jamila. There's something about being authentically you, right? And I often joke about it, but I do consider it a blessing You know, my mom says all the time, she will depart from me in the store and go one way, and she comes back and someone is sharing their whole life story with me. I never made it past past that aisle. I was supposed to meet up with her, and this random person just started sharing their life story with me. And it has to come from being authentically you and being able to project out that you are that person that people can feel safe just sharing everything with you and expecting nothing back. I mean, you know, I don't know what their purpose is in sharing with me, but they don't ever want anything back. They just want to share. And I'm an introvert, remember? So I'm not a big like group person. I don't know what it is about me. I do smile a lot. I do believe in, you know, giving people a smile, being inviting and opening. And you know, recognizing that for some people, like you said, Danny, that the smile is enough to pull them out of wherever they were. They're not healed, but it may pull them out of wherever they were, because we don't smile at each other. We don't look at each other in the eyes when we talk. We don't stop when we say, hey, how are you? Someone said that to me years ago, and ever since that was pointed out to me, I don't ask if I don't have time to stop. I may say, I'm great, have a great day, or, you know, I'm not so good, but I don't want to talk about it, you know, or whatever I may say. I'm always honest about what I'm feeling, but I will not ask in return if I do not have the time to stop and hear what you have to say. And it catches some people off guard because they're like, I wasn't expecting an answer. I wasn't expecting you to wait for my answer. Oh, shoot, now I got to answer you, you know. But it's important that the further away we get from each other due to the internet and working from home and telecommuting and all this other stuff and Zoom, that we engage in these small, basic, and mask wearing, right? I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but I have spent so much time over the past year learning how to smile with my eyes, with my eyeballs, because you cannot see that I am giving you a smile. And unfortunately, my eyeballs have resting bitch face. They just do. They're behind these glasses. They're half lit, like they're not, you know, my eyes do not say, hey, come talk to me. And I'm a very sarcastic person. So if you're not getting it from my smile that I'm just joking, I got to come up with another way. I've had to curb my sarcasm because of that. I've had to start, you know, all these things that we have to do to be more interpersonal in a day and an age where we are drifting away from each other, which gets to what, for me, my belief on why we are seeing an increase in these emotional and mental disorders. You know, because physically we're going downhill as a nation, especially here in the US. But then we're so far removed from each other on a daily basis. For 7 years, I was single and celibate. And for that 7 years, what I had to do to maintain my sanity was withdraw from touching people. And I did not realize when I was ready to come out of that, how far away I had gone, to the point where I had this like automatic bubble around me where I wouldn't get physically close to anybody. I wouldn't stand close to them. I wouldn't, I wouldn't give the cues that it was okay for you to touch me. And, I once that was pointed out to me, right, then I realized, oh shoot, I have to get back to the middle. And as a society and as women, we have to get back to the middle. As women, we are programmed. It is in our DNA. It is in our makeup, whether you have children or not, to be nurturers. So we have to get back to the understanding that that's just who we are, and it's okay. And if you have the ability to project that nurturing whatever If you build it, they will come. People will be drawn to you. You know, we talk about energy, you know, attraction and all of that. So if you're projecting negative energy out there, then negative energy is going to come back. But if you are projecting positivity, and I don't mean happiness, I mean positivity and energy, you know, light energy, you're going to get that back. People are going to respond to that. And so the way you know, back to my original statement, this is a difficult answer for me, is because if you're close to me, I can feel it. If you're in my close circle, you don't have to say a word. The moment I look at you, you pick up the phone, and the way you say hello, the way you walk in a room, it's automatic. I can tell. And I've gotten to know you enough to know what I can do for you. Do I need to be the joker? You know, do I need to be Mama Mel? Do I need to be Dr. Mel? You know, or do I just need to sit and let you cry on my shoulder? And that's it. Or do you need to just vent? Because I got that too. But if you're a stranger and I can feel it, it's a lot harder for me to help you without wanting to go, several people have said on here, wanting to go to fix it mode, because I don't have a long time with you. I don't have, you know, potentially multiple interactions with you to allow you time to process and vent, and then come back later and ask me for advice 2, 3, 5 times on the same subject. I don't have time for that. So it may just be, you get a smile from me. You get a, I'm sending you love and light, and it's genuine. It is, when I say it, I mean it. You get an I love you. I have told perfect strangers, I love you, because it's the truth, you know. Love is all encompassing, and I have a love for mankind that is unbelievable. And a hug, a shoulder rub, a something to let you feel my energy without invading your space. Now, if you ask me after that, if you're like, hey, can I share? Hey, can I get your advice? I'm on it. I'm on it. That's me.
So
Excuse me, can I kind of jump in on that for a moment? So here's the thing. Who nurtures the nurture?
that's just like who takes care of the caretaker.
Yes, because you all know me. You all know that 90% of the time I am encouraging, I am empowering, I want the best for people. This is genuinely who I am. But behind closed doors, you may not see that. So, you know, and this is the danger in mental illness, because in public, I am what everybody expects and anticipates. Oh, Jamila's going to be smiling and it's going to be a good time. First of all, Jamila's incredibly shy, and most people don't know that, because I have my external persona that we were talking about. Um, but in those moments where, you know, okay, I have to go out and I have to be positive and I have to save face for a moment because, you know, I have to be in this professional environment, and then I come home and I'm weighted down. Who encourages, who nurtures the nurturer? And for us as women, you know, we're great at doing that with our counterpart, our male counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, because we are real quick. Everybody has that resting bitch face. We do. We look at another woman and, you know, we're sizing them up, and I will size somebody up. And I'm thankful that I am quick to find the good in people and be able to compliment. But listen, I am still a beautician to my bones. So if that wig or that weave or those nails are bothering me, Jesus, please give me something to compliment, because it's bothering me. But because I am that person who loves to encourage, right? So then, you know, how do we get to a place where behind closed doors, I can go to my sister and say, hey, you know what? I have given all the positive energy that I have in my overflow, first of all that I have to give in my overflow, and I just need a little pour just to run over a little bit. Can you help me with that? How do we do that?
That's your village. I feel like this goes, all these topics are, to me, are related because, you know, somebody said it at the beginning of this conversation, or maybe it was last night, that the person that you pour out to, in my case, more often than not, is not the person that pours back into me, right?
Yes.
So I know that if I call such and such a person and I say, I've had it. I've had all I can do today. If I call, you know, one of my best friends who, you know, lives here in Chapel Hill, and I say, like, she's the same way. She picks up the phone. I say, hello. She's like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm bringing you Chick-fil-A and a hug. I don't need to stay. I don't need to hear. I don't need to nothing. Chick-fil-A and a hug. Now, she's one of those people that I pour into and she pours into me. But I know that I have other folks in my life that I pour into, and they're not the person I'm going to call if I need to vent and I don't want a response back. I don't want you to fix it. You know, I just need to get it off. I just need to cry. There are some people I know I'm not going to call if I'm having relationship issues, because now my business is everywhere. But they can call me about their relationship business. You know what I mean? So this gets back to that idea of expanding your village, and Danny's point, you know, originally about, you know, I'm sad that you don't have someone you can be completely 100% yourself with. I encourage you to find that. It is a blessing. But it gets back to her point about having bubbles, right? And so I know she knows that in this bubble, she's going to get and can give this. And that's why all of these conversations are important, because again, they're all interconnected. It gets back to expand your village, and then get rid of the people in your village who are constantly taking and not giving anything back. Because there's a difference between, you know, my way of giving is usually monetarily. That's how I grew up, watching my mom. You know, if somebody was struggling or down, here, I give you my last $2. Here's $10. You said that, you know, you needed to go to the store and get a glass of milk, you know, and get a carton of milk. Well, I was there. Here's your carton of milk. You know, so for me, it's usually that's what I'm gift giving is my form of one of my forms of love languages. But I don't expect that back, right, from all of my friends. You know, I may pour gift giving as a love language into this person, but what they give me back is quality time. And that's sufficient and fantastic, because I need that from some people. So if they're not giving you anything back and are constantly taking, even if they're only taking from your overflow, that's still your overflow, baby. Like, that's still yours. You know, if all they're taking is from your overflow, if you call this person and every time you call them, they spend 30 minutes on the phone telling you about what's going on with them, and then they hang up and they never circle back and ask you about what's going on with you, then that person is not benefiting you in any way, shape, or form in your life. Reduce your village to givers, and, you know, givers who give and take, and it's cyclical. And the way it happens does not need to be the same or equal, but you need to be getting back something from the people that you are giving to.
Okay. So in me in this process, I'm gonna pick on Jamila for this one. When we first started being friends, and before, you know, we even got close, our empath, our part of us knew each other. And before we got to really know each other, we knew each other. Jamila was having a rough night for whatever reason, and she was going through a rough patch. And 2:30 in the morning, I'm picking up the phone because she done woke me up out of a perfectly wonderful sleep, because her name is just in me. What's wrong? Nothing. You lie. You just woke me up out of my sleep. What's wrong? Then all of a sudden she breaks. Okay, so that's what we figure out what we finna do, because what we can't do is be living like this. Because your whole spirit came all the way. She was in Denver, I was in Tennessee, but her spirit has come from over there to over here and tapped me on my shoulder and said, get up. What? What? Look, what we finna do. But in that same aspect, I had another friend who, not realizing, called me for some of them. I used to talk on the phone, but for some reason this day called me and would not let me off the phone. What I didn't tell her to almost a year, 2 years later, he said, the day that you called me and you did that to me, I was sitting there crying with pills in my hand because I was exhausted and was ready to be over everything, the pain, the everything. And I was about to be done. And I was sitting there with pills in my hand, but she wouldn't let go. I kept, okay, well, I'm gonna talk to you later. And she, no, what you doing? You busy? You not at work? You at home? Well, what you gonna do? What I'm gonna do? Well, you clean up, put your headset on. And she had every excuse why she would not let me off that phone. Because you know I wouldn't hang up on her, especially if I thought she needed me. She knew that that's my Achilles heel. I'm not gonna hang up on you unless you have to really make me mad. So she kept me on that phone. We must have been on the phone for maybe 2 hours, talking about everything under the sun. And in the midst of it, I took the pill bottle and put the pills back in. I tightened the bottle, put the bottle over here. She ain't gonna let me off this phone. It ain't gonna happen. But she wasn't aware that our tie to each other caused her to call me and not let go. Her spirit wouldn't let go. And as a sister, she's like, I didn't know. I knew you wouldn't have it. I knew you had been going through some things, but I didn't know it was that bad. And at that moment, you kept me, not even knowing it. And that's the energy. Different people did different things. She did that to me, and then when I got that moment, I did that to her. So, like you say, is that she helped me, I helped her, and Jamila helps the next. But that's what it's supposed to be in womanhood. We did that, but it was just funny how things went. So I think the biggest energy, and I'm a hugger at times, and I'm like Mel, going to store, and all of a sudden I'm having a whole. I got everybody's life story. I could tell you book, chapter, and verse, everything under the sun. Don't ask me why. My ex used to hate walking in the store with me for that purpose. She used to hate walking in the store because they knew it was going to be another 2 hours, because I done taught and made 14 new friends. And people, and even I'm a customer service representative. Why people tell me their whole life? I'd be on a call for 20, 30 minutes because people telling me their whole life story. Baby, we ain't met before. That lady, they said that. She said, I don't know you from Adam, but you done told me your whole life story. Ma'am, don't you think something a little bit off that you... She said, I don't know, I just feel comfortable talking to you. Okay. I have one manager now, when my calls are a certain amount, he won't even monitor them. He says, yeah, and I felt like, he hangs it up, he stops, next call. Because he said, I'm not doing it. He says, I did that one time. I did it a couple times. And you knew everything about this life story. I've also had a call where someone tells me that I was diagnosed with an illness and I'm going to shoot myself. I just need to make sure my suicide clause and my insurance is going to keep my family covered. I stood outside for about 30 minutes after that call because my nerves were so entirely jacked up. I went and stood out. My boss, my manager, he went and got me my Coke, because I love my Coca-Colas. I came back, it was a nice iced Coca-Cola on my desk because he knew my nerves was all the way jacked up after listening to this man talk very as casually as you and I are talking about suicide. I've seen women walk around with the weight of the world on their shoulders. Who takes care of the caretaker? Most time nobody offers to. And then when they offer to, they halfway do it, so the caretaker has to go back and fix it anyway, to the point where they say, you know what, never mind, I'll do it myself. Never mind. Not that you I thank you for trying. I truly am grateful that you tried. But since I'm gonna have to redo this anyway, just let me do it. Just because my nerves can't handle it. You going there to cook me dinner? Oh, that was so sweet, baby. Why my kitchen smell like smoke and you got every dish dirty and oh, baby, just go on now. I'll clean it up. Just go somewhere. I'll cook it in. I'm gonna say, no. I so thank that you wanted to do that for me. Just go somewhere.
I tell you quick, I don't cook, but I'll order.
But some, yeah, but that's what it was. You see that, hey, people having, we as women have to remember back in the day when somebody died, everybody got together, they bought something to the house. It was chicken, it was soda, and it was a cake. Those are three things. You all everything else may come, but that's what it is. We don't do that no more. We don't go make this casserole. Say, she lost her husband. Well, let's go over there. Let's sit with her and give her some energy. She need this. She need help cleaning up a little bit because she got to get ready for this funeral. Now her somebody died. Everybody looking, and they might give up a box of chicken, or they might cash out for $3. But you forgot to be there. You forgot to invest 30 minutes to come sit there because she don't want you there for 12 hours because she don't want to be bothered with that many people. But you forgot to make an effort.
I want to add that what's missing from this is the follow-up. So when, Michelle, you've done this to me a few times. I may not want to talk about it, or I may talk about it, but what allows me to see that this person really cares is when they circle back. Hey, I know it's been, a week, and I do this myself, it's been a couple of days, it's been a week, I haven't heard from you. I know you were going through some stuff. We still don't have to talk about it, but I want to just circle back and let you know that I'm still here, I'm still available. Let me know what you need, or if they did talk about it, hey, how did that, how are you doing now? Do you need support or more support or a different kind of support? What do you need, or has this passed? And sometimes especially with the sorority, for me, I'm not as involved with every individual person, but I hear a lot of what's going on, or I'll, watch a Marco Polo or read, and I'll be like, somebody needs to hear from me. And something will trigger for me who it is that I don't know what's going on, but I know something's going on. And I'll just, hey, you were on my mind, or in that video, you just didn't sound quite yourself. I'm here. Or, I heard about this happening to you 2 weeks ago. I'm just hearing about it. What do you need from me? I had a friend who lost her mother. And she said, people kept saying to her, I'm here if you need me, just call me. I'm here if you need me, just reach out to me. Whatever you need, just let me know. And myself and one of her other friends just started doing things that we know that a person who's lost somebody that integral, any loss really, but for her, somebody who was her best friend, we just started doing things. And she said, that's what people don't get. I don't know what I need. I've never experienced this. Or even if I have, this is still somebody different, somebody new, a different situation. I don't know what I need. So you saying to me, hey, reach out if you need anything, I'm not going to reach out. I'm in the middle of my crisis, my pain, my, sadness. And so the follow up and the follow through and the going back to that person. What made me think about this was, Michelle, you talking about when somebody dies, everybody shows up with casseroles. And I'm one of those people who will show up 2 months later with a casserole, because you got all that food the day of, the week of. You probably didn't eat half of it because you were going through the cycles of grief. Now it's 2 months later and nobody's checking on you. Nobody's making sure you're eating. Nobody's making sure you're bathing. You're going through the motions. You had to go back to work. I told everybody, if my mama dies, when, I'm saying if, because Lord willing, she will never die. But if and when my mother dies, I'm one of those people you'll need to follow up with, because, I am the head of my family. So it will be my responsibility to handle all of the arrangements. And I'll probably be good that whole time because I'm on a mission. Make sure, like you said, Jamila, who takes care of the caretaker? I'm the caretaker. And my sister has been stepping up to be my, to support me and be my caretaker, in many ways. But I know that if something happens like that in our family, I'm the caretaker. And I don't necessarily know who I will be able to call on to care for me on the level of care that I know I'm going to need. And what it will take and what it takes, especially getting back to our original topic, mental and emotional disorders, is follow up. Just because the person shared with you one time that they were thinking about suicide and you talked them off that ledge, just because the person that one time had an anxiety attack and a brownout, which I have had, and it is very scary, doesn't mean that they don't need you to follow back up. Hey, were you able to get into the therapist or the doctor? Do you need me to go pick up some medication? Have you had another attack? Have you looked at what causes the attack? Have you called, do you have the suicide hotline? Danny, I'm all the time like, have you talked to your co-sponsor or your sponsor? Like, I know this is a tough situation. I don't know what alcohol addiction is like. So I can't support you in that, but there's sponsors who can. Have you talked to a sponsor? I'll circle back. I know that was a rough time for you. How did you do? Did you get to talk to it? It's very important that we don't just assume that it's a one-time fix it. And that's why, to your point, Jamila, I was saying you need that village, because you need the person who's going to keep coming back and making sure that you're being filled.
Yeah, and I'm notorious for that. I call y'all 1,200 times. I send random text messages. Hey, babe, how you doing? Good morning. You okay? You mad at me? That's
sometimes
fine.
I don't want to talk, but I just pick up because I know you're going to keep calling. You're going to text, you're going to instant message, you're going to Marco Polo. And I'm like, let me just answer and tell her I'm not okay, but I don't want to talk about it.
And then I'll be like, okay, well, I'm here if you want to talk, and I'll hang up and leave me alone. But if you ignore me, I'm going to keep going, because now I'm worried. So I'm going to keep calling. Danny learned that lesson quick. She'll be on, I'm okay, but I'll call you back. All right.
And then it's, I didn't hear back from you. You told me after work. It is now 10:30. I know you're not at work still. I got a key. Like, yeah. So, but I wanted to add to what Jamila said. She said, who nurtures the nurturers? I know we're the ones having the conversation, but we're a great place to start. If the nurturers are making themselves available to other nurturers, other strong women, there's the dominoes. Like, I really feel like if one of us are there for one other strong woman who feels like she's breaking, then she can do that possibly for somebody else, or she can then be vulnerable to open up to somebody else. Like, I think those floodgates can just open up if we each as an individual say, you know something, I need to check what I'm doing and stop just being about self. I need to check myself. Right now I'm mad because I can't get my nails are done, but right now I'm mad because I can't get a film. My tech can't see me, but this person right here is fighting for their lives. Like, do my nails wait until tomorrow, or I'm gonna help my sister fight for her life right now? So I think that starts with each and every one of us, those that are watching and listening now, those that replay, those that share it on with other people. Like, I know I've shared in like 5-6 different groups I'm in, but it starts with us. And it may sound so easy, but it's really not. And I know it's not, but we can still try. We can still make that effort to do that. And as strong women and nurturers, be there and do that for somebody else. And then maybe they reciprocate it for you or someone, I think I'm still hopeful, even though I feel like a fish out of water sometimes myself. I feel like it's still possible. I feel like there's still hope in humanity.
Danny, as a teacher, you've probably heard this before. I do, we do,
You do.
you do.
Yep.
And it applies so much in how we interact with each other. People need to see how I manage this situation. And then we can do this together when it's your turn. And then when it's someone else's turn, you can do it for them. I do, we do, you do.
You know, what's amazing is that they have, I'm just learned about this the past several months. They have like peer support specialists. However, like, I guess my concern with it would be it falls under someone that has had a mental health issue or substance abuse. However, there's so many of us as individuals. So to become a peer support specialist, you need to be able to relate to somebody in those areas. But if you think about it, how many of us just need that period in life? Like, you're not going to get assigned a peer support specialist because you have bouts of depression or you have seasonal depression. Like, no, can I get a buddy? Like, I want a pen pal. Like, why can't we just start our own buddy system, our own pen pal system? You know, like, seriously, like, instead of, okay, well, guess what? We may not fall under this category to get those services or whatever. But like, I need a pen pal that I know I can call and be like, I can't make it myself right now. I cannot make it on my own right now. Like, I'm stuck in the parking lot at work, and I mentally don't know how I'm going to get from here to home. Talk me through this. Talk me until I can pull into my driveway safely. You know what I'm saying? And I've gotten that from sisters in the sorority at different times. But sometimes we're in a place where we're just stuck and we need someone to literally just grab our hand and get us past that threshold. And it's like, I'm still, you have your kids. It's like, okay, I'm going to hold your hand and play walking with you. And then I'm going to let one hand go. Yeah. Oh, let me catch you. Wait a minute. I'm still here. And then eventually it's like, okay, I'm letting both hands go. They stand for a little bit. They wobble. They fall. Okay, come on. Let's try it again. And sometimes we just need that in someone else. And we need to be that for somebody else until I can stand on my own. Until I can clear my head. Like, not even until I can clear my head, but for that moment or whatever the case may be.
I have literally been, because of my anxiety, standing every time I have to move. It makes me unbelievably anxious to move. It brings back a lot of stuff. But I have literally been standing in my kitchen, spiraling in a circle, like my body, like I have been just turning in a circle because I'm a very logical person. I know what I need to do. I have the list. I just can't start. And, when I moved from Baltimore, my mom like walked into the kitchen and grabbed me and was like, stop. I'm going to start with this. You're going to start with this. And just like physically grabbing me, so I could stop spiraling and just focus my attention on her, like was all it took. After that, I could go. And the same thing when I moved to my current apartment, my best friend was with me and I just was like, I might even have been on the Marco Polo with the org. And I had switched to Marco Polo with her. And I was literally just spinning round and round in my little tiny bedroom because I didn't know, I just couldn't stop and start somewhere. And she showed up and I was still spinning. And she had to do the same thing. She, sometimes that, like you were saying, that physical, just stop. I got you. I'm going to drive to where you are in that parking lot. And we're going to sit in our cars together and talk through these windows until you remember how to put your car and drive and get home. And then I'm going to talk you all the way home while I'm on the way home. That's how we do it. I agree.
And I agree because I've had that moment, and my anxiety, especially when it's driving in the rain. And I think everybody has talked to me, and when it's pouring down rain, as long as you're talking to me and keeping my mind occupied, my autopilot and my brain drives home. But you get off the phone and I start, because now I'm focusing again. But as long as you're talking to me, I drive just fine. Don't get off the phone until I'm there, especially if it's raining real hard.
Let me say this. You know how I am, Tamika. So I'm gonna say this because I was told. If you are listening to this, if you are under the sound of our voice and you need resources and you're not comfortable going to your circle, there are 4 women here who I am sure, I know for sure myself, I know for sure Melody, I know for sure, you know, there are 4 women under the sound of your voice, under the sound of this voice that will help you find resources. It is nothing to be embarrassed about. It is nothing to be scared about. We'll help you. We'll help you be brave enough and fight enough for yourself to say, hey, I need help. I need help. Because, and we recognize that it is not always easy. And yeah, it can be a little scary, but we're here and we are ready and willing and available. Drop a line in the inbox and say, I need help. That's it.
Okay. And Jamila, thank you. That was perfect because we're coming to the end of this live tonight, but that was the perfect way to end it, and it's the very truth. I don't have no problem. Y'all inbox me, Author Michelle Warren is my page. Both my business page and my personal page. Hit that inbox. I'm gonna roll over, I'm gonna see, and we're gonna have a great conversation because I'm good. We rather reach our hand out and help a sister possibly find out what's wrong, what's going on. You need to do what? You're in a bad situation. Where are you located? Well, let me see what I can find out. Let me see if I know anybody in your area. Let me put the APB out. Because we don't have no problem. You where? Oh, wait, I got a sister there. Hold on. We hit that keyboard, baby. She around here. Yeah, do y'all know what kind of program? Yeah, can you go around there? We don't have no problem. Because we always say, if you're in the area we're in, don't make us roll up. That's not being hurtful. That's not being painful. But there comes a moment and there comes a time where you have to know that somebody is going to listen. What you going through? Are you having a hard time? Let me go and cry with you. Because like Danielle, I'm a big behind bag of water. And I'm gonna sit right there and I'm gonna boo-hoo cry with you. And okay, we finished now. Okay, we got our tears out. Okay, so how we gonna fix this? So I done cried with you now. We got it all out of our system. How we gonna fix this now? What we doing? What you need to do? Let's make a list. Let's get some done. Especially Melody. She gonna make you a plan. Oh, this is what you need. Hold on, A to Z. Let's go. She gonna break this down.
And it's gonna be color coded.
There you go. Color coded. She's gonna have tabs and she's gonna say step 1 and she's gonna break this thing down. This is what you, and then I'm gonna say, oh, you need somebody to go. Well, let me see what I can get off. Let me see what I can get off work. And we're gonna go to, you need to do what? You gotta find a new place to stay. Well, let me see what I can find out. You got a place, let's go help you. But that's and somebody put in the group and we're here for the brothers as well. We all what you need, what we doing. Because if you're trying to better yourself, I applaud and jump into any person trying to better yourself. Come on, let's figure out how to help you. Because for each person that we help is a mother. I have daughters, a mother who has kids and trying to figure out what they're doing, and they were young or they were just not experiencing, and they trying to figure out how to function. Should we do it in church? One mama's she just need a moment. Hold on, we got your kid. But he can be upset all he wants to. He be all right. He can't beat me. Going on your merry way. Because guess what? That's what needed to be done. You in my house? Come on, I have a house full of children. If y'all don't tear my house up, here's y'all food. I'm feeding everybody. Come on, let's go. And that's what we're doing. But that's what the village is. I may not could physically help you, but I know somebody who can. I may not be able to take you to these appointments, but baby, go call this 1-800 number right here. They help you with your lights. Baby, go call this number here. They'll help get you an apartment. Baby, he did what? He hit you? Can you get away? I like Mel said, right. I don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have this cop pick you at XYZ time and you out. Pack a bag. Oh no, you're not gonna be in that city. We're gonna switch you. I got a sister over here, 2 cities over, and we finna figure out how to get you over because that's what we need to do as women. But understand, don't go back to that situation that we're gonna get you out because we're gonna get you out of it. What you're trying to do, go back to school and you need tutors. Somebody knows something.
We actually, there is a current day Underground Railroad, and that's exactly what it's called. And it's not about race, but there is an Underground Railroad.
For victims of domestic
Of course, it's not
violence.
blatant public, whatever, but it
Yeah.
does exist. So if you are needing to get from A to B,
We'll figure it out.
there are systems there of, you know, I know how to contact people because I'm kind of in the midst there a little bit. There's resources in abundance right here on the screen for anyone that needs it. Yeah.
And you know, that's necessary because that's what we've gotten to be for each other. And it's necessary that we get back there.
Listen, I'm gonna put this caveat out here though. Let me say this. And the 3 of you know this because I say it in the org all the time. There is a difference between being a victim and actually, like, you know, trying to, some people call it a survivor, right? Your victim story is not going to get you out of your situation. It's not. And I am not here for victim stories. I'm gonna hear your story, but you cannot use that story as an excuse to continue the behavior that is detrimental to your well-being, emotional, physical, and mental. Okay, so you know, I don't need to fix your problem if that's not what you want, but I am not here for your victim story. I had a friend of mine is a spiritual life coach, same person who's just been great for me. And one of the assignments that she had when she was getting her coaching degree was to go out and tell 10 people her victim story. Just share her victim story with 10 people. And by the time they came back, see how that victim story was no longer true. When you just walk up to random strangers and tell them your victim story, not your survivor story, but that story that you keep saying, well, this is why I'm the way I am, that story. Mama did this, daddy did that, and that's why, da 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 da, and I'ma be who I'ma be. When you share that story with 10 strangers, watch how that story doesn't hold power for you anymore. Not here for the victim story. We are not here for that.
Yeah. Stories. We're trying to get the success stories out. So we want to see what your success journey gonna look like. So we're here. So thank you, ladies, for jumping on this impromptu call tonight. I truly appreciate it. I feel like a lot has been told and accomplished. And I feel like we're continuing to be a help because we're having the conversations that are necessary. And I hope people share this live and I hope they have more conversations. And I hope, and I want you, we have a group, the exploration of it, there's a group on Facebook. If you want to have these conversations with people who are willing to have these conversations, let me know, we'll get you added in. But that's what that is. We need to keep talking because the only way we're going to affect change is to be consistently talking about it and communication and bringing light to the darkness. The only way the darkness is going to go away is if we keep bringing light. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, ladies. I hope everyone has a great, grand, and wonderful night. Bye.
There was something that Mel said earlier.
Yeah.
And I meant to bring it up.